Let's talk a little about taking a backwards design approach to designing instruction. To get started, let's briefly go over the concept. When you take a backwards design approach, you start with thinking about the overall goals or the big picture that you want your learners to take away from the experience. Then you think about how you intend to measure that your learners have actually achieved those goals that you initially set out. And finally, you think about the instruction or learning experiences that will help learners achieve those goals. Let's take, for example, that you're teaching an introductory course to public speaking. What are some goals or outcomes you would want your learners to achieve by the end of your course? Well, some things that come to mind are reflect on personal speech and posture habits, examine and evaluate speech techniques, including content and delivery, improve personal speech mechanics and recognize appropriate use of posture, create and effectively deliver various types of speeches. So now you want to move into thinking about how you'll measure those goals. Let's start with the first goal, as it's an easy one. In order for learners to reflect on personal speech and posture habits, you'll probably want them to do a low-stakes pre-activity to get them started, and this should ideally happen prior to any form of instruction. Here's an example of an activity. Record a brief 1 to 2 minute video speech on why you deserve an A in this course. You can use any tool you have at your disposal, cell phone, webcam, laptop, etc., but the camera must capture head to waist so I can observe expression and posture. To have learners continue the reflection cycle, in a later unit, I'd have them go back and watch their recording and jot down everything they observe about their speech and posture. They will also use a rubric I provide to assess the overall quality of their speech. This is the same rubric I would later use to evaluate and grade their speeches. Once they submit their notes and completed rubric, I will provide feedback on specific things I noticed that they needed improvement on, both in their original speech and the evaluation of their speech. This part of the reflection cycle could be done as a group activity or in partners or pairs. However, as it may be towards the beginning of the term and people may not feel comfortable critiquing one another, I would probably leave this as an individual activity. In the interest of time, let's assume I follow a similar logic and develop assessments for the remaining 3 outcomes: speech observation notes and evaluations, personal speech development goals, and speech delivery, which would include at least 3 different types of speeches. The next step in the backwards design process would then be to actually design the learning experience and instruction to help learners work towards those goals. So, what are some things that learners can do between the pre-work recorded speech and their analysis and evaluation of that speech? I'd probably give them some introductory lectures to different types of speeches, such as demonstration, informative, persuasive, and so on, and then have a poll or small group activity where they can determine what types of speech they delivered for their original activity. I'd also have them start reading to develop some foundational knowledge on techniques and mechanics, as well as posture. Finally, I'd have them watch a few speeches of various types and have them collectively rate them from best to worst in each category. Then they can have a group discussion around what attributes make good speeches versus bad speeches. All of these put together should help them build the knowledge bank they need in order to go back and re-watch their initial speech to determine what they did well and what needs improvement. I would continue to use the backwards design process to flesh out the remaining assessments and units of instruction that would help work towards the overall goals for my learners.